Hi there, welcome to Grain TV. It is Monday, May 1st, and what a May it started out to be. We had an up day in the markets. Corn was up 10, beans was up 12, and Chicago wheat up 23, while Kansas City wheat was up 27. Today was all about trading the weekend weather and what kind of damage happened in the winter wheat plain states of Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, and Colorado. News over the weekend was really focused on what those weather conditions look like. Most of it was pretty detrimental to the crop in terms of significant snowfall, more so than maybe had been expected going into the weekend. The temperatures were not quite as bad as expected, but the snowfall levels were probably a little higher than expected, with 10 to 15 inches expected or seen in some parts of western Kansas, stretching into the panhandle of Oklahoma, Texas. Also on the plate was what kind of damage the southern part of the Corn Belt saw from all these heavy rains. Certainly some of the pictures that are streaming out of Oklahoma, Arkansas, into Missouri showing very, very high flooding potential as the rivers start to expand beyond their banks, and so that has the trade somewhat worried. So overall, Sunday was really a jump higher led by wheat. Kansas City wheat up 15 right out of the gate Sunday night. We managed to trade almost limit higher into the last 10 minutes of trade before closing a little bit off the day's highs, but nonetheless, everything has been to the downside. Funds are excessively short. There was discussion over the weekend about the CFTC report. We saw fund positions continue to expand to the short side. So you had kerosene combined with ignition happening on Sunday night, the kerosene being the big short position and the ignition being the weather event over the weekend. That got the market catapulting higher and carried us strongly higher throughout the trade day today. Now, as we talk about weather, obviously people will be digesting what's going to happen to the winter wheat crop. How likely is it we're going to see a slowdown in corn planting? We'll get crop progress conditions or crop progress reports on corn planting here later today. That's expected to show 31% of the corn crop planted. But the outlook beyond this major event, looking ahead into week 2 of the next week, shows a much different animal. Obviously, we've had very wet conditions in the last 5 days over these major growing areas. As we look to the week ending May 13th from the weather map here put together by our good friends at Planalytics, what we see is a much different weather event. We see a much drier climate in the key growing areas. We see a lot of the moisture being pushed out to the west or into the far east. So we see a really good potential for crop progress to improve, for planting progress to improve. So, as we look ahead, there is still a lot of time. We're still early in the planting season. We may be a little bit behind based on today's numbers, but with very little significant rainfall expected in the next 10 days, that sets the stage for drying out from this major weather event, as well as pushing ahead on planting conditions. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us start to improve the weather outlook as we go forward. And obviously in the wheat market, they're going to need to assess how likely it was that we had any damage. Most of the damage is not likely freeze related. The temperatures were not necessarily significant enough to cause significant freeze damage, but the significant snowfall in the face of a crop that is fairly advanced in terms of heading may have some snapback and things like that could cause some problems. So there is the potential for a crop drop in winter wheat production. I don't think it's a game changer. I don't think we've wiped out this crop by any stretch of the imagination. So, but today certainly was about getting rid of the short position in the market, and those funds were certainly on that cusp of driving the market higher. Other news out today, let's take a look at export inspections. These were non-aggressive in any stretch of the imagination, everything coming in either in the midpoint of expectations or on the downside of expectations in the case of corn. So nothing really lightning rod here. Again, crop progress will be widely watched later this afternoon. Also coming out today will be industrial use monthly report from USDA. That may have some trigger effects on tonight's trade Monday night. Let's take a look at the trade action on the daily charts here. Let's start first of all with Dees corn. Dees corn had a really strong day in sympathy with wheat mostly. Also, some lingering concerns about planting slowdowns. But what was interesting about the Dees corn chart here is we traded up to the high back in March at 395 3/4. That was really, on the radar here with the last 10 minutes of trade, where I thought we might be able to push through it, but really there was no sort of buying enthusiasm at the end across the board, and so the market sort of faded off of those highs. So watch for that 395 3/4 as the upside resistance at this point. Obviously after that we'll be shooting for the $4 even mark. In the case of Kansas City wheat, a very strong advance today. Obviously we've been bouncing off of these lows in the last week in relation to this weather event. So we had upwards of 470 here as sort of the next upward trajectory if we're going to continue this rally. And again, I think while this is certainly supportive, I don't know that the actual fundamentals will support us maintaining these prices, but certainly with the funds being so short as they are, you would think that the trigger will be there for them to continue to liquidate, which could push us higher even if the fundamentals don't necessarily dictate. So, as always, if you want to learn more about how we can help you in your own grain trading situation, including lowering your commissions to $7 a side, visit us online at grainhedge.com. Have a great day. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.